This video contains major spoilers from both the show and set 13. If you don't want to be spoiled, you should click off now. You've been warned. Riot released its new set Into the Arcane onto PvE, and I had the pleasure of playing it for the past week. Along with its launch, we got the usual dev drop, and they gave us this statement.
But if you feel like something or someone is missing, that's because they are. As the show evolves, so will the set.
That's pretty wild, but considering it's supposed to be the biggest TFT set in a while, it makes sense. It would be a huge win for TFT addicts, and well, Riot as well. Before we dive deeper into potential and admittedly very tinfoil hat speculations, let's take a look at all the confirmed Arcane Connections in the game so far. First up, TFT units that made it from the show into the set. We have Step, Loris, Medi, Cupcake, and Vi, who all share the Enforcer trait. Then there's Singed, Gremlin, Rennie, Silco, and Savika, who share the Chem Baron trait. We have Jace and Heimerdinger, who obviously must share Academy. Then there's Ambassador, the Conquering Emissary? Nice touch there. Then there's Echo and Scar as Firelights. And, admittedly, the best of the traits, Powder, Violet, and Papa Vanda as a family. And Jinx obviously as a rebel. And then there's also Twitch, in theory. Other Arcane references include the starting arena, resembling the Hexgate cores from the show, the Rebel trait activation, the Firelight Dash, the Chem Baron Shimmer, different augments that represent events in the storyline, or character connections, or some things that could have been, and the anomaly, resembling what's described as
flawless, exquisite, chaos.
A quick side note. Some design choices were obviously made for convenience or artistic reasons. TFT's goal isn't to represent Arcane one-to-one. That said, if no changes are made, I can already tell you it's a great set. If you liked set 9 or 12, you're going to enjoy this one for sure. Now without further ado, let's dive into what people speculate will happen during the evolvement of this set. The first theory is that Malzahar will be replaced by Viktor. Even though I don't want to ruin mods' fantasies, it would be the perfect turnaround for the TFT insider lore itself. Maybe there will be some tweaks happening to the spell, and maybe to the trait as well, but Viktor, the robotic visionary, could be a fit. Some people on Reddit suggest that his ability may or may not be his inflicting touch. I personally would like for him to have a different ability, at least visually, if he gets swapped out. Another strong contender is Warwick. What should be confirming that case are two things. One of them is the howl that we hear at the end of the death drop, which kinda just has to be a deep hint, doesn't it? Another thing that might add to the bias is that we have Vi and Violet, Powder and Jinx, but Vanda is just in his old form. A lot of people suggest that he would replacing one of the beefier experiments, and that would make sense lore-wise. My personal guess would be Nunu, since he has the experiment trait, and he's a bruiser. On top of that, a visionary, which would fit well, since Vanda, the man inside the beast, had a vision for the Undercity, just like Silco did. I also doubt that he would have the Watcher trait, like some suggested, because there's already 6 of them, and usually there's no overabundance for one trait. Next up, Isha. She had a lot of screen time now and is nowhere to be found. Some suggest that she would be a good fit for Zoe or Vex, and she would definitely go into the Rebel trait, judging by the color of her hair, and that being a major plotline in the arc. As for swaps, she would replace Vex probably, and not Zoe. All the other kiddos are 1 cost, so it would just make sense. If she would be added, she would be a 1 cost as well, and probably share the family trait. That could add up, because family goes up to 5, and so far we only have 3 of the family members. And story-wise, you know, group hug? Another good call would be Mel. Mel has been encountering the Black Rose in the series and is kind of the only person apart from Ambassador that did and has a lot of screen time. So I can see how she will fit into a Black Rose unit depending on how Act 3 goes. A bit far-fetched admittedly, but possible. Swap-wise, Morgana makes the most sense here, looking at her traits being Black Rose and Visionary. The only ick I'd have with that is that she's only 1 cost. Adding-wise, I think Mel doesn't make sense as a Black Rose. Black Rose's most powerful activation needs 2 emblems as a chase trait. While not an all-powerful chase trait for 10 units, it's still the one to go for to stabilize in the late. Adding another Black Rose unit messes up that power balance too much. Maybe she comes in as a threat-like unit where she doesn't share any traits with anyone at all. What about Owlgirl for Zeri? Admittedly another stretch, because her screen time was minimal, But that doesn't have to say a lot, because neither was Steps so far. I have to say though, it would make more sense adding her as a Firelight than replacing Zeri, because we would be missing a sniper. However, then we would also have an easy to achieve Firelight 4, which is awkward. And the last one on my list that I haven't really found anything on the internet so far is Rictus. No one even mentioned my big bearded beefy boy, and while this one is the most unlikely, he would make up for a great form swapper, replacing both Darius and Draven. Trust me, I played an insane amount of Conqueror games on the PBE, and it's just too goddamn good and needs a nerf. A form swapper that replaces both Worn Cost units might be a good balancing option. And again, we have seen him throw his spear and fight with it as well. Also, he has some goddamn magic absorbing runes thingamajigs. How cool would that be? But I may be getting carried away. My own personal note to all of these is, I think changes are very, very likely, and would be a huge win for both Riot and the TFT community. At least to whomever is somewhat invested in the game. Especially Viktor and Warwick have good chances of being either swapped or added to the game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, please, for the love of God. If you have any other unit ideas that, you know, are being added to the game or getting swapped out, this is the time to share. This tinfoiling got me more addicted than Shimmer. Anyways, until next time, wrap it out.